Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Lori MacVittie.
All right, so 20 years ago, when I was 9 years old, I was sitting in an audience like you probably. I was hired as an IT architect for a transportation and logistics firm. I was not the only new hire, because at the time we got our first CIO, which if you remember back then was a big deal. It was a commitment to IT. It's kind of like hiring a CISO today is a commitment to security. Now for some reason, even though we were both new hires, he was asked to address the company, not me. And he did, and he spoke a whole lot of words. I don't remember most of them, but I do remember 8 of them because they angered me. He said, "We are not in the business of IT." Well, I was shocked. I mean, without IT, shipments of goods didn't get scheduled. Movements of trucks and planes, ships, didn't happen. The drivers did not get monitored, and none of us got paid. I mean, can you imagine writing out checks for 2,000 employees by hand, right? Those apps were important. They were critical even then. So those 8 words have stuck with me for 20 years. So if you take away 8 words and nothing else from today, I want you to remember that we are all now in the business of IT. Because the business of IT is the delivery of applications. Now that's important because for most of my career, delivering applications has relied on boxes in the network, shiny boxes, blinking lights. Whew, it's Christmas. And these boxes change every time application architectures and environments change. Right? In the 90s, we were worried about scale, so we delivered boxes that did load balancing. When the 3-tiered web came about and dial-up was how we all accessed the internet, performance was paramount. So we put boxes into the network that sped up applications. They cached things, they accelerated them, made the internet usable. We've moved to mobile and APIs. Broadband is now ubiquitous. Everybody has it, and so do the attackers. Right? It's like age of the exploit. And security is our focus. And we are going to deliver boxes, and we're going to put them in the network, and we're going to secure applications against DDoS attacks and bots and every bad thing you can imagine. We're about to enter another age. Microservices are being adopted very quickly. We're moving to the cloud, get new environments, new architectures. Speed is of the essence. Everybody wants to get to market first with that new app, that new game, that new thing, that new gadget. So we got to move faster, and we're going to have a lot more things to move and many more places to move them. Well, obviously, history predicts that application delivery has to change. Something has to give. Yeah, it really is blank because there's no box this time. There is no box we can put in the network to deal with this change. Because this change is operational and architectural. It's about taking the apps and the application services you have and deploying them faster, more frequently. This change is really about this schedule, which is your schedule. Actually, it's probably less packed than your schedules, I'm going to guess. It's about how this is packed with meetings and updates, the after-hours maintenance, right? Weekend deployments. You've all been there. Come on. I've been there. The pizza, the beer, the disappointment when it fails, and then you have to go home. The change in application delivery at this time is about this schedule. It's about speeding up deployments, not just apps. It's about scaling operations, not just your servers. Okay? From F5, you've heard, we're going to have new models of delivery, new application architectures that fit better into this new per-application world that we're moving into. But from you guys in IT, it's going to require a new approach to how you deliver and operate those application services and the applications that they support. because you have a lot of operational debt already. So when my mother started her career in IT when she was 9, because it runs in the family, she was writing code on mainframes in what language? Of course, COBOL, because that's how you did it back then. When she retired 10 years ago, some of those applications were still running. They're still running the business, along with a whole bunch of client-server apps and web apps and mobile apps, and they're already moving into microservices. You have a multi-generational IT. It's filled with all these different kinds of apps, and each one still needs all the application services. They need scale, they need speed, and somehow you have to deliver them. And you're already spending 63% of your time just doing that, on running and fixing and patching. You have very little time for innovation. And now is coming this avalanche of new applications and microservices, containers, cloud. So not only do you have to deliver everything you always have, but now you're going to get more, and you really have to do it faster and more frequently. At least that's what the DevOps that we have talked to tell us. So Cindy Borvik and I have just completed the State of Network Automation, where we actually surveyed people who actually do this, actually deliver applications. And 43% of the DevOps respondents said, we don't deploy frequently enough. Now that's probably unsurprising. What may be surprising is that 30% of NetOps, right, also said the same thing. They recognize they need to go faster, and they need to do it more frequently. They're not really sure how. Now traditionally, we scale operations by adding more people. Just adds every 5 apps, we'll add 2, 3 heads. It'll all add up in the end. We'll catch up. It's not going to work anymore because the magnitude of scale here of change is dramatic. And eventually, if you keep adding people, you're going to run afoul of Brooks' Law. Right? Fred Brooks. In 1975, he wrote the seminal work on project management, right? Software estimation, project management, in which he said that if you throw more people at a late project, it will get later. And this is because of communications overhead that builds up. Because of course, if you add more people, you have to add more managers, and then you add more processes, and pretty soon you don't know who's doing what anymore. And it takes longer to do something. So when we hit that point, like Faust, bargaining with the devil, we start making trade-offs. Well, we'll just skip security right now because we have to have speed, right? Oh, stability is not that important. We need to scale. It's got to go. We make these trade-offs. And even doing that, we hit this wall where we cannot deploy any more, any faster. There's no more hours in the day, no more time. That's it. We're done. And DevOps and the business say, well, that's okay. We'll just end run around you, and we'll go to the cloud, or we'll outsource, or we'll go someplace else. Okay? We're getting close to that wall. And this is why automation is so critical, right? It's important that we embrace it. And it's almost ironic that the people who are pushing us to go this fast are the ones that actually have the answer for us on how to do that automation and get that speed that we need. Because the answer is to get continuous. See, DevOps operates on this principle that says that there is one pipeline per application, and that it's continuous. It never stops. We continually build, we continually test, we continually integrate, we continually deliver. And it just keeps happening. And they do that with automation, because a person couldn't do that all the time. That's too much to manage. They do it with automation. But this is why the cloud is so appealing, is because cloud offers a per application, right, continuous pipeline for every application. Every application is your special friend now. Okay. DevOps brings that to deployment with the application infrastructure, but that's generally where it stops. And that's where things slow down because they start running into the application services and the network and security. And this is not continuous. It's not even per application right now. Right? It's a very traditional stovepipe type network. So it slows things down. And if NetOps is going to thrive, not just survive, but thrive in this cloudy, containerized vortex of chaos, then it's going to have to get continuous. So there's a lot here, and this is really the core of what we want to say today. Okay? Scripting and automation. We're trying to get to automation. Where we are most of the time right now is scripting. Most people today know how to use Bash and curl, Python, Perl. You know how to use those things to script changes on all sorts of devices, usually the devices that make up your deployment path, right? I have to do a router change, then I have to do a firewall rule, I have to deploy the load balancer. I've got a list. This is scripting. Okay? That is not automation. That's not where we want to get. And most of us are still on the scripting side, this very manual process. That same survey told us that 52% of you are still doing either CLI or script-based changes to deploy applications and application services. So we really got a big shift that we have to make if we're going to get the speed and the frequency we want. And we're going to do that by embracing automation. So the difference here is that automation is about the process. So if scripting is about code change, using code to change configurations, then automation is about using code to deploy a process. It's about doing this automatically. Because if I have to go and ask somebody to go run a script to make a firewall rule, well, one, that doesn't happen that way, does it? The last time they let me deploy an application, which was a long time ago, admittedly, it took me 3 weeks and 3 signatures on a piece of paper to get one firewall change. I just wanted port 80 opened. That was it. Open that. And I'm not kidding, 3 people. And tracking down the third person, because he was on vacation, was a very painful process. That's what we mean by it's manual when you're scripting, right? He may have just, there it went. It was done. It was like 5 seconds. But it took me 3 weeks of waiting because of this process that was manual, because there was no automation to do things like routing through Teams when people are on vacation, right? To make that approval process part of the process and automate it so that everything is flowing smoothly and going through each of the steps automatically. And this is the difference, and this is where we need to get, is from scripting to automation. And eventually we'll get to orchestration, but that's another windmill, and I'm not going to tilt it today. We'll just focus on automation, because this is a big enough step. See, in the face of microservices and containers and cloud, you really have to go to automation. And that means adopting DevOps-like practices, here's where they have the answer, like infrastructure as code. It means like declarative models of management, using AS3 and JSON, right, configurations, storing them in repositories. So basically, you have to get as comfortable pulling configurations out of a repository and pushing them into automation engines as you are SCPing the configuration from a file, from a server, and then shoving it out to a device. Okay, now I'm supposed to stop and let you take a picture, because this is like the money slide or the important slide. I don't know, something like that, right? It's a list. It's what you have to go home and do. I'm not going to come and check, so if you don't, it's okay. But this list is a good reminder of the things that you should consider when you're moving toward automation. This isn't something you should fall into accidentally. You should approach it strategically. If you don't, you're going to end up right where we are now, which is with 25 years of ossified processes that are getting in the way of moving faster and deploying more frequently. This is your opportunity to optimize those things, to look at them and say, hey, What can we make better so that we can move even faster? Because if you automate what you've always done, it's just going to be faster, but it's still going to be as complex as it was, and it's not going to be as fast as it could be. So how do you do that? I want you to go back and seek out the Six Sigma black belt ninjas that are hiding in your project management offices. They're usually associated with software, right, with your developers, and they do project management and estimation. They are learned ninjas at being able to dredge the value out of a process and get rid of all the waste. That's what they do. That's what they know how to do. So find them and talk to them. Ask them how to do that. Ask them to do it for you. Just be nice, because they're ninjas. Be careful. Then I want you to go and you find the Scrum Masters and your Kanban Kings in your development organization or your DevOps organization, and you say, hey, you're the ones who want this continuous pipeline. Help us. How do you do that? What are the tools you're using? What works, what doesn't? Learn from their mistakes. Why repeat them? They've already made all the mistakes. Just find out what works. And move forward with that. And maybe together, collaboratively, build that continuous pipeline that they want and the business needs to keep moving forward. Back to my favorite slide. This looks like my schedule too. It just doesn't say as many, meetings and updates, but this is your schedule. We're back here. This is what it's all about. This is why, when DevOps says, why can't you go faster? Well, this is why. Because everything has to have a meeting and an update and a scheduled time, and it has to be approved, and you have to do it after hours. You can't disrupt things, right? You need to work on optimizing and scaling operations. Right? The goal is to end up with an agile network that is defined by artifacts, that's driven by automation, and optimized by experts. And in case you weren't sure, that is you. You are the experts here. The goal with automation, despite many of the cries on the internet, was never to eliminate the experts. It was never to eliminate you. It was to eliminate the schedule. This is what we need to get rid of. So you can have time for that innovation and maybe a vacation. Automation can help you reduce the time that you're spending on run fix so you can focus on what really matters. And what really matters, because we're all in the business of IT, is transforming IT into a lean, mean application delivering machine that can meet the needs of the business so that it can thrive in this digital economy. And if you fully embrace that automation is about process and people as much as it is the technology you're going to use to implement it, then you can emerge from this chaos of cloud and containers with an ordered, consistent, and successful application delivery strategy that scales the business and operates at the speed of cloud. All right, deep breath. That's for you, not me. Well, maybe it's for me too. Right, that's a lot. It's a lot. I'm basically saying go back and change everything you've ever done. Just do it, right? It's a lot. And you're not going to do it overnight, and you're certainly not going to do it alone. Okay? One of the tenets of DevOps is collaboration. And that means not just within your organization, but also across the community and with your vendors, with F5. And we are going to continue to provide as many resources and help and communities for you to be able to be successful at this journey. Because it's going to be a longer journey, and you can't walk it alone. So we're going to continue to do that. And most recently, one of the resources we added was F5 Labs. Now, if you don't know F5 Labs, what they're doing is basically they're taking all of the threat intelligence research, and they're taking it out of the SOC and they're putting it into your hands and into your networks and into your inboxes, hopefully. Because it doesn't really do any good if we're just like, yay, we know this thing, right? You need to know. So that's why I'm very thrilled to be able to introduce to you the director of F5 Labs, Sarah Body, who is going to share some of the recent research and findings that they have and some strategies for how to deal with the threats that they've uncovered.